I mean, I've introduced you just earlier.
Well, now,
Everybody.
for the second talk of the evening, put your hands together for Michael Milewski, who is going to talk about, am I live on Zoom as well? Have I unmuted? Yeah, Zoom. I don't know.
I think you are, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's a thumbs up. Cool. All right, I can talk forever, but we want to finish off with two things. One is where I get a couple of volunteers up on stage to test your Ruby knowledge. Two is where we code this amazing keyboard with 4 keys from RubyConf live on stage. We're going to do some Ruby hacking. So let's make sure we save 5 minutes for that. So you just like give me like, oh, Michael, we've had enough. All right. So Adam asked me, what slide presentation tool do you use? So somewhere in here. Whoa. I said, yeah. What is this one? This is the JavaScript one. Anyone? Reveal.js. So I installed it yesterday and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Look, it's on my GitHub page. And then that's where that's got stuck. And then I pushed my whole repo up to Netlify. Worked out that, whoa, Netlify, it's on there as well. Slide 1 and slide 2. So that's, yeah, woo! All right, we got all the stuff happening. So I thought I will just do reveal markdown, where I slowly scroll up the markdown document and reveal the next line of code, which will hopefully prompt me to some enlightenment for you. This is a whole, so what does this talk about? Well, I said, this is the original issue, that I got to go to a whole heap of Ruby conferences. And I'm going to tell you about what I've learned, how I got to go, any upcoming conferences in case you want to do what I did, and how to get most out of conferences. That was the sell. And then I said, well, what conferences did I go to? So is that font big enough? No, and bigger. +++. So we'll reveal markdown. So last year I got to go to RubyConf Thailand in Bangkok. And that was a self-funded thing. I was like, post-COVID, I thought, here's a conference. They accepted a talk from a couple of years ago. And I was like, yeah, cool. I'll do my pairing talk with my co-presenter, Selena Small, who you may know. We applied to talk at RubyConf AU Melbourne. They said no. The general rule is if I'm not accepted, I don't go. But then they said, oh, how about you guys can be MCs? So we were like, yeah, all in. So we MC'd that one. We got accepted to Programmable Melbourne and Sydney. So there was a conference in both of those places. Test Bash Spring, like we applied everywhere. I'll give you a few kind of hints on if you're interested in talking at conferences, what that means. This was a remote thing, and they actually asked us to record something, upload a video, and then watch and do a Q&A. Fortunately, it was at 11 p.m. Melbourne time. So there was a whole heap of Test Bash people, like a QA conference in London, watching and being online. And it was actually not bad, a lot less stressful, a lot less live, but being able to do a talk, watch the recording, and then have Q&A and have actually async Q&A because everyone was remote. So there's a whole channel where we could actually answer questions in depth. Was actually kind of not bad. But in general, I'm kind of, I'm not a fan. I do have another conference coming up at 2 in the morning. And then we hit it big, React Miami. So we contacted a number of conferences, actually probably about 110, of which we got a 1 in 10 strike rate. React Miami, we said, well, there's not one of us, there's 2 of us, and it's only a 20-minute session, and we're coming all the way from Australia. They responded, we want your comedy show, we're paying for everything. So we were like, all right. Oh, yeah. Oh, power's out. No, you guys lose. Oh, hang on. No, I can't. I have to do. Come back. We'll come back. I have to re-screen share that.
Oh, really? Yeah. So yeah.
All good. All good. All good. So React Miami actually coughed up. Is this being recorded? I don't know. Maybe they'll have to tell you. Being recorded. $8 grand. $8 grand. It was $8 grand to fly us over, and then we were like, tickets are getting more expensive every day, and this is including 3 days of hotel accommodation. And they finally kind of said, well, yeah, next week we'll book them. And just at that moment, guess who came back to us? RailsConf Atlanta said, hey, we'd love to see your pairing talk. And they were, React Miami was Thursday, Friday, and RailsConf Atlanta was 2 states over, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we told React Miami, can we just fly out a couple of days later in Atlanta? So they basically paid for both. RailsConf, out of interest, they pay $500 per talk, irrespective of where you are, how many speakers, and I have not seen the money yet, but I will probably get it. That barely paid for the flight for the 2 of us from Miami to Atlanta. And then we went to RubyConf. Now, if anyone knows of all these conferences, all of these conferences, we put in our testing and our pairing talk, which are pretty fluffy, kind of like, hey, this is how you should do testing. This is what pairing is about. RubyConf was not going to have that. And I think for 2 years, we've applied to go into RubyConf. So RubyConf is the predominant Japanese conference about Ruby. And it's predominantly people talking about libraries they've written. And it's very hardcore. You see more C code than Ruby code. So we, whilst in RubyConf Bangkok, maybe under the influence of more than just alcohol, came up with how possibly could we get into RubyConf? And we said, well, imagine, so Selena, my co-presenter, is a kickboxer, and during lockdown, she needed a kickboxing partner, and there was gyms were closed, etc. So she actually came up with this idea, like how hard would it be to build a boxing robot? So we said, right, this is the moment. How about we build a boxing robot using Arduinos and Internet of Things, kind of running mRuby, which is an embedded Ruby. We put JRuby on an Android phone, and we have CRuby in the cloud, and we'll have this connected thing. And we called it Kickboxer versus Ruby, the state of mRuby, JRuby, CRuby. And a couple of 3 months ago, they said yes. And then we went, holy moly, we have to write this code. Coming up soon, we got accepted to CBP Canada. They were going to pay $2,000. It was a C++ conference. We were kind of like, it's too close to everything else, and it's a bit weird. They were a bit weird. So we said no. We got accepted to RustConf Albuquerque, where, you know, that mRuby, JRuby, CRuby, Kickboxer and everything. It was going to be Kickboxer versus Rust. But I thought, I don't know if we've got enough time between now and then and 3 other conferences to rewrite the whole thing in Rust. React Summit's the one we're speaking at on Wednesday morning at 2 a.m. So that's a pre-recorded session where we watch it and then go into Q&A. That's in Amsterdam. And then NDC Copenhagen. So NDC is like a series of conferences out there. And we applied and they said, yep, you're in. And mostly we're applying for ones that paid. So they said, yep, we're paying for one of you. My wife has started a new job. So she said, you're not going anywhere. So Selena said, well, I'll fly and you can dial in to the conference on a talk we have not yet written. I think that's in August. So that's how we got to a lot of these places, but I'm going to show you a little bit of the learnings. But let's see what's next. Oh, yeah, this is like, yeah, it could be 10 or 40 minutes. What can I deliver? I don't know. Right. Okay. So how do you get into these things? So who's never heard of a CFP? A call for papers. So a CFP is a call for papers. So as somebody organizes a conference, about 9 months, well, presumably 12 months beforehand, they go, right, we need some budget, we need a location, we need a time, we need everything else. But about 4 to 5 months before the conference, they open what is known as a CFP, a call for papers. I'm going to show you our CFPs. So this is Selena's sessionized public profile, which basically shows her kind of little bio, which I think we wrote like years ago, shows the topics she covers. Holy moly. The sessions she has. So she has one about 10x your teamwork through pair programming, Ruby versus Kickboxer, Developer Smackdown. This is the one we haven't written yet. This is great. And then in Sessionize, you actually have all the events that you've been either upcoming to or presented, and you can actually add your own thing. So it's a way of storing your kind of history. So that was hers, but let's look at mine. Opening a new tab, and we go across here. This is mine, and in here, I presume I'm logged in. Obviously, I don't do as many topics. So then I can presumably click on one of these. No, your account. All right, go into my account. So this is what you don't see, but this is what kind of one of the platforms you would use. So these are in evaluation. This is what an accepted looks like. It's a dashboard where, as you can see, there's a lot of conferences. But the beauty of these platforms is you can write 3 or 4 talks and then just submit and submit. So that's kind of how it works. That's one of the platforms. The other popular one is Papercall. So if we have a look at that, these are my 36 submissions, probably of all time. So we've just submitted to Web Directions Summit a number of talks. We can retract. Probably down here you'll see rejected. And if we look at one of these, so let's find out one that's been selected, not selected. I don't have any active ones right now, right? So, but if I look at, let's say, Kickboxer versus Ruby at UCO Party, this is my kind of, there's usually an elevator pitch, a description of what people will learn, notes and details of the kind of stuff that's there. Sometimes they ask why why you can present. So often we will just throw in all the things we've presented at before, which can work for or against you. But if I look at the event, so if I view the event, this is Eco Party, CFP closes on September the 10th. They will often tell you how many people come there, where it is, whether they, the kind of important dates. So April 10th, CFP is open. September the 10th, it's closed. By the 16th, you'll get the final notification. They'll kind of give you suggested topics often to say, hey, these are the things you could talk about: smart devices, medical devices, mobile hacking, obviously dependent on the kind of conference. So that's the whole CFP. How do I get into a conference thing? There is Papercall, Sessionize. There's a number of others. We can find conferences. Twitter often will have advertisements, and then it's just a question of writing probably a reasonably good abstract and key dot points. And sometimes you can pull it off to write the conference after you've been accepted, but probably the best thing initially is to actually do it first. There is also this thing, rubyconferences.org. So for those who don't know what that is, let's close some of these. This is a past and upcoming Ruby specific conference list. So there's Blue Ridge Ruby coming up in Asheville. Sorry. Ah, there you go. They rejected us. Wroclaw, I think they rejected us. I'm Polish. Yeah. So, this is a way of finding. Oh, there's a Rail Camp West. Oh, in Hawaii. Whoa. Holy moly. There you go. So that's rubyconferences.org. That's cool. So that's how you kind of get there. Drivers, people often ask me, like, why do you go to all these conferences? So basically, swag. It is the #1 driver. I think it's starting to peter off. It's mostly my co-presenter, but it's basically around the swag. 2, I think there's a bit of an adrenaline hit when your CFP gets accepted, even though you wrote it like 3 years ago or whatever. And there's a little bit of credibility you get from talking at a conference, even if it's showing people how to write hello world. Test hello world, yeah. It does reduce the decisions around where to travel, because you kind of go, well, so I recently went to Ruby Kaigi, Matsumoto in Japan. I've never been to Japan. If you ask me, like, hey, Michael, when you're going to go to Japan, I go, oh, in the perfect time for maybe fishing, or the perfect time for ski season, which basically means I'll probably not find that time for the next 20 years. But this was like, oh, somebody's asking me to speak there, or they've accepted my submission, I'm going. So I went there. So it just reduces that kind of decision around where to travel. There's often a party. There's a lot of parties with a lot of these things. Oh, there's a link. Why is there a link? Oh, okay. There's a link to show you some photos. That's cool. These are conference notes. All the links are public. We're here for parties. Let's have a look at parties. Well, so this is our talk. So I don't know if for those who have or haven't seen it, we talk about pair programming. Basically, I'm an asshole, and then hopefully by the end of the pairing session, I'm a little bit less of an asshole. There is, yeah, a lot of people with swag, banners, opportunities to talk with people, meet people, depending on the conference, more famous or less famous people. Is there more party photos? Sorry, scrolling. Yeah, I mean, you know, you get out on town and what is this? This is like, yeah, so this is out in the main party street, dancing around, pair programming, karaokeing. We made I think a tragic mistake in Bangkok. My understanding of karaoke is like, you just take the room and you start karaokeing. In Bangkok, the idea is a lonely gentleman may go to a karaoke club where they will get a young lady to come and sit with them. They may have a conversation, and every so often he may decide to sing her a song. So you can imagine the shock when there was a gentleman there with two quite attractive young ladies next to him. And I just sit down like, this keyboard's not in Australian. Like, how do I find any English songs? And then 20 of us sit there and drink beer and yell K-San at the top of our voices. So there's a lot of kind of partying. Sometimes there's coding. So this we really wanted to Twitch stream. So we went to somebody's hotel room at 2 a.m. And decided to learn a little bit of Elixir. So the guy, Aaron, is on the keys. He's an Elixir guy from Switzerland, no, actually he's from Austria. Eric Evans is on the left. He's the guy who wrote Rhoda. There's a couple of other people in there that they're all presenters, but this is like 2 a.m. just coding at somebody's place. So yeah, all that kind of stuff happens. It's pretty cool because it is focused around coding. So party, but the underlying drive is like, why would you do this? For me, it's actually completing things. I start a lot of projects, but if I don't have a deadline, I don't complete them. It's a good way of finding out what's new in the community, to see what people have done. Like today, even watching Adam's talk, I've learned 2 or 3 commands that I'm really going to give a go. And as much as I hate aliases and visual GUIs, I've now put them on my list as like, you know what, I might try these for a week just to really know why I hate them. It gives you the opportunity to be a better programmer. A guitar license, that will be the day. I'm all about free swag. I did get a free IntelliJ code, so I have now free IntelliJ for a year. The whole swag thing is another conversation. More completion, more experience, wider network, and equity is an interesting one. So we talk, the 2 of us, male, female, somebody who's had years of experience and a computer science degree, somebody who's switched into it. The fundamental kind of reason why that's Selena and myself, talk is to try and put both of us on parity on stages, so people can look at that and go, oh, cool, I don't have to be the CS person to be able to present, to be able to travel internationally, to be able to be part of that. So I think that's kind of a big reason we do these things often together. All right, so the list of Selena Michael code for swag tour. I want to make a t-shirt. I've got one conference before this runs out. So what have we got? Yeah, so that's kind of where it's sitting at the moment, from 2022 to Copenhagen. But I said we're going to write some code. Oh, right, and then you get big wins. Like, look at this. I got really surprised. So I met this guy at ReactConf Miami. We had a bit of a chat. Kind of decided to talk a little bit across Twitter. And he was presenting. He runs his own company. He's a pretty successful guy. He flies a plane, bought himself a plane. He runs a company called Test Pilot. No, something else. I've forgotten. But they do. Oh, it's on his shirt. I can't read that. It's an AWS deployment framework, like a Heroku for your devs. But he quoted one of my quotes, which is kind of interesting. He was looking at how do you deliver software faster, and I kind of said, well, commit to trunk, no PRs, which actually fundamentally requires you to be doing pair programming. But he picked up on that, and a number of other people kind of said the same, but he ended up putting my name on his presentation. you want to watch it, it's there. That is it's via this Twitter link. You can find this video. That is the raw feed from Infobit Shift Miami. But it's obviously cool when stuff like that happens. As I said, we had to say no to a couple: CPP North, RubyConf, Albuquerque. So, well, onto the conferences. Like, what do we get out of them? Recurring themes. There's a number of things around speed of SQL, active record, making dynamic active record kind of creation things. A number of talks from back in Bangkok, all the way through to RailsConf. Web authn and passkeys. Both of these actually we'll do a demo in a sec. So who here has never heard of passkeys? Oh, cool. All right. So we're going to have a look at demos, but as I said, this is a recurring thing. This is like talks that have been done in React, in Ruby, in a number of different places. Rails modularization, and we have Julio here. So one of the best talks I saw recently was his talk about all you need is Rails engines. Is that meant to be like all you need is Rails engines? Yeah. So, and it was cool because it was literally the thing we had done at the company I was working at, or am working at, Zepto, which was modularizing using Packwork. But we had a couple of sticking points, and I still haven't applied your fix to them. But I believe what you were suggesting in your talk would have actually made that better. That said, there was 3 talks and a workshop at RailsConf about exactly the same thing, using things like Packwork. Don't split into microservices, modularize your monolith, extend Rails beyond where it's at. There was obviously a lot of talks about AI. There was a number aiming at AI pair programming using things like Copilot, ChatGPT. It's on my list of, I don't know, maybe I should try Copilot for a while, see if it's useful or not. But it is certainly a hot topic at the moment. It was filling rooms as soon as somebody would mention that they're going to do ChatGPT and code generation. The keys that I got out of it was two kind of key interesting things. One was if you gave it a problem, for it to tell you how to approach that problem and how to solve it. That was kind of like, oh, cool. You could say, hey, I want to modularize or build an invoicing system for this. And it would kind of come up with like the example was given was like a 13-step plan of, well, maybe you want to do this first and then this and then this. The other cool thing was you could give it some code and ask ChatGPT to tell you how it works. And that seemed to be like oh, okay, I never thought of that use. So they're the kind of 2 uses that I thought were kind of useful. There was a number of talks, mostly in the Node space around all things cloud. So deploying to the cloud, having dev spaces in clouds, having various libraries that interact and allow for kind of interactive whiteboard apps across the web, that kind of stuff. So they're the kind of recurring themes. And now we'll get into code samples. How are we going with time? We're good? All right. Okay, fast SQL. Yeah.
Do you guys want to hear more?
All right, let's go. So this is completely half prepared. I'm going to jump into demo and something to do with, no, not special characters. Special characters, that's going to be amazing. But fast SQL. So there's a README in there with all the instructions I need to do. Okay, so Rails new. How do you make Rails new the fastest way? Yell out at me. Go for it.
No mailers, no nothing.
Yeah. Minimal. Who hasn't heard of Minimal? Okay, everyone knows. So you can do this, right? Rails new demo, Minimal, skip test, database Postgres. Minimal basically means skip all the special stuff. And hopefully this bit, actually, I'm confused what happens here. I think Bundler cracks the shits a little bit. This last bit is where it gets stuck. Where's my beer? Yeah. Cool. So Rails minimal. And I say that because as developers, we think we know everything. 2 years later, a new flag appears or a new way of doing things, and you don't necessarily find out. So apart from this bit, but whatever. See how fast that was? No aliases, man. No aliases. Maybe I was using some of the hotkeys on this special keyboard. Yeah. Wow.
Minute, 1 minute. Yeah.
Wow. This
I did
bit's like,
listed.
oh yeah, there you go. Woohoo. All right, what do we do next? We CD into demo, which is my thing. And then I go bin setup. I only learned about bin setup, I reckon 2 years ago. Like, I didn't know this. This just does all the things for you. It's like a setup script. And then you can go bin Rails start, I suppose. And we should get an app running on 3000. Let's go. Woo! We have Rails. Yeah. All right. All right. So, but what I want to do is show you some fast SQL. So the next thing we're going to do is how do I generate a model really quickly? Scaffold, right? Whoa. Not that scaffold. Oh yeah, here we go. So I can do Rails generate scaffold a stash, and it's going to have one field, a value, which is an integer. Cool. So that will generate all the things for me, including a view. So then at this point, I can bin setup again to just make sure my database is migrated, all the things. And then if here I do that, I get nothing special. But if I go to stats, I get stats, and I can go, oh, cool, I could create a new one. It's going to ask me for a value. But, you know, somebody's asked me to say, hey, Michael, can you create lots of values? So what do? We go bin Rails console. And at this point, I'm going to forget my typing abilities. I'm going to cat the aforementioned README and go, what the hell? Oh, no, it was all in here. Right. So rather than console, who's used the Rails runner? Yeah, runner. So I can do, bin Rails runner. No, this is actual real work. Okay, so I don't have it in my history, but I can do a bin Rails runner, which will basically execute some code. So I can then print the stat.all.count, which we hope to be 0. What's that? Oh, is there sound? Not me. My sound's off anyway. Is that right? I don't know. So at this point, I could go back here and work out what I was meant to cut and paste and go, all right, yes, I want to do something like this. So I want to get the time to create some data. If I know there's no data in there, I do this, and I'm basically just doing stat.create value. I'm just putting a random value in there, waiting. And obviously in this case, you know, it took a fair while, 7.61 of my user seconds to generate 10,000 items. If I go in here, I probably don't want to reload because this is going to be 10,000 of them in there, but it took a long time. So one of the talks I went to said, there's a faster way to generate data really, really quickly. And I thought, well, it's been sitting in the back of my head. I really, really, really want to try that. So I tried it this morning. That's why we've got this whole demo here. So at this point, we can do this stats count. We're going to do this count. We should, obviously, there's some startup time. We got 10,000. At this point, we can just delete all to delete them. It will give us 10,000 because that's how many it's deleted. But one of the things you can do is this. I'm not going to type it because I'm not that spaced. So what we're doing here is bin Rails runner, creating a whole heap of SQL, which is basically a SQL insert command. And in here, I've got selecting some random numbers and some timestamps, and in this case, generating a whole heap of timestamps, and then just active record base executing that SQL. So basically, I'm reaching into the database and just executing some SQL. In this case, if this is every 5 minutes for a whole year, I think it's going to be more than our 10,000, and it's done. Right, so if we now do a Rails, not a delete all, but a count, we will see that we now have 105,000 records rather than just 10,000 really, really, really quickly. And in this case, with intervals of 5 minutes. I thought it was a cool piece of code. It's one of these things that sticks with you at a conference and you go, I really want to try that. And I finally got to try it and it's so cool. And you guys are so excited. Yeah. All right, let's go next. So we've done our Rails demo. Yes, question.
How much faster that would be than say mapping out a set of values and doing insert?
there is a talk I did about doing various things, including insert all, as well as using Arrow, which is a really, really fast data format, and loading CSVs. That had a lot of those numbers. Don't know.
But I find that you got to record it.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Yeah. I'll send you a link. I sent the link to somebody in a screen grab just the other day, but who was it? Forgot.
I would appreciate that.
You know what? It may even be in here somewhere. We'll find out. But yes, coming. Another cool thing that I saw at a number of conferences was OpenTelemetry. Who has not heard of OpenTelemetry? Oh, there's a few people. So I think, and I don't know, and this is, see how it hasn't got a green tick? You don't get a demo. I think fundamentally, when you use something like New Relic, we've got the bloody demo master from our company as well here, or Ryan did our demo of this, but I think the general idea of OpenTelemetry is in something like New Relic or a tool, a monitoring tool like that, you'll get a span of how long it took to do an action, but it's usually only across one server, one job, etc. And the New Relic salespeople do tell me there's ways of doing it across stuff, but not necessarily as easy to kind of augment and change. OpenTelemetry is an open standard to basically do your own telemetry on various methods, which means if you've got a microservices kind of architecture where one thing calls another thing calls another thing, you can actually open a span and say, I've received a webhook, I've processed various things, I've finally sent some other kind of ongoing thing, and that whole thing gets treated as one thing. So to me, writing your own telemetry for your own more complicated app is where that kind of sounds very interesting. And the thing I want to do is build a very simple demo one day, which basically I'd have a method calls another method calls another method, and could kind of calculate, no matter how long it takes, you know, even if I delay some of them, just to say, right, the span was how long, you know, between one git commit and another. Actually, that would be a cool one. You could do a git commit extension that would do OpenTelemetry on your PRs. That would be great. Next time. Yep.
Like with OpenTelemetry, like because it's getting like universal, all these companies like AWS, Datadog, like stuff to support it, you can write your own like span or trace kind of thing, and it can poke into the API and extract some premium features for free pretty much. Yeah,
right. So yeah. Okay. So
I'm going to be compatible with you, and I'm going to get your data for free.
So I mentioned Swag. I'm not going to show you the Capybara scrape thing, but at one conference, at a number of conferences, they give you away really cool prizes like switches, like remote control Lego. And the best is when the prize, the way to win the prize is actually a game of skill or something else. So there was one competition where we collectively, Selena, ended up winning a $500 piece of remote control Lego because the game was to answer some questions, and whoever was answering the questions the fastest would win. I couldn't get the questions right. I couldn't be quick enough. But as one of the other talks got a bit boring, I ended up using Capybara, which is like a remote control kind of screen scraping, press the buttons kind of thing. And as you would, the first thing you do when you're trying to do multiple choice is answer A every time. People were getting scores of around 30,000. When I ran my script, I got 120,000. I was like, whoa, something's going on here. I got up to 250,000. What happened was they were scoring on how quickly you answered a question quite high. So all it required was 2 or 3 questions to have the answer A, and I won, which ended up putting me on the leaderboard, not once, not twice, but about 6 times. The problem was, as on the leaderboard, I actually advertised myself as Selena hates QAs, things like that. So then she felt obliged that she gets to use those to actually win the final prize, which she did. But yes, Capybara screen scraping for the win. Race conditions, there's a great talk and you'll see notes to it later on about race conditions. I don't have a demo, but I do have a demo on special characters. Right, so special characters, let's go. Control C that. And how are we going to do this? I'm going to CD, no, I need 3 windows. So I'm going to CD into special, oh yeah. don't delete the wrong thing, right? Special characters, cat read me. All right, and then in here, I'm going to, so mRuby, anyone hasn't heard of mRuby? There's a number of flavors of Ruby. One of them is what is known as CRuby or MRI Ruby, which is the one we mostly use. There's JRuby, which runs on the Java virtual machine. And another one is mRuby, which runs on microcontroller devices and doesn't have things like require. So you can't require, you just have to write it. That's cool. I need to get out of that directory. Okay. So if I do IRB, I'm now in an MIRB shell, which means if I do require JSON, it will say, what? Require such a method. In here, I'm going to ASDF 3.2. Oh, I have to get out of this directory because it doesn't exist. 3.2. That one, IRB. So in here we have Ruby 3.2. We've got mRuby. And then we have README. All right, so this will give me a hint. All right, so in Ruby, I'm going to clear the screen. When I do that, what do we expect the answer to be? Woo! Yeah. What about if I throw in an emoji like this one?
What skin color is that?
What do we expect that to? Length? Well, 4. But this doesn't make sense, right? This is mRuby. This is our Ruby 3.2.2. That's better, right? So that is 1. And if I throw in a castle, it's RubyKagi that I saw this, and an omega sign, that's 3, right? That makes sense. That's kind of what we expect. But what's going on here, over here in mRuby, that's 11. That's crazy talk. What are these people doing? Well, one of the talks at RubyKagi actually talked about how they're implementing in C code the ability to do this. And what is this? Well, not only can I do length, but I can grab the ordinal of the first character. I believe that's what it does. So it kind of says, hey, out of your 256 characters, that first character, that emoji thing, that's 240, which it certainly is not. If we did that in Ruby, we get, oh yeah, this thing, right? So this is the actual number of that Unicode character. What else can we do? Oh, okay, we can inspect it. So if I inspect this, I go, okay, it's a string with 3 characters. It's kind of what we expect. But that did not come for free, because in mRuby, it's nothing like that. And you're going, whoa, what's going on here? Well, let's actually grab this one and let's have a look at some of the details. And this is getting the bytes and then mapping over each one of the bytes and spitting them out in base 2, which is binary. And all of a sudden we go, okay, so there's a lot of bytes. In fact, there's probably 11 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, no, 12. Okay, I've no idea what that 11 up there means. But there all of this crazy stuff here. And this is the same in one or the other. And what's interesting is, and I didn't know this till I went to RubyKagi, that as I look here, there's some 1s, and then there's a 100 and a 100 and a 100, and then, oh, there's another thing with lots of 1s, and then a 10, 10, a 10, and then another thing with lots of 1s. Well, what is actually happening is this is the way that if we copy that again and bring that first character only in, I think that's clear. But what we note is certain Unicode characters will take up different amount of bytes, and the 1s and 0s here tell Ruby and tell the string how many characters are coming. And these 1s here say there's more, and this one says this is the last one. Whereas if we grab the omega sign, so if we said, no, that's the ohm sign actually. We said the ohm sign dot bytes dot map underscore 1.2s2. Then here we're saying, okay, it's multi-byte because it's got all these ones here, but then there's some other kind of beginning here and some other kind of beginning here. And if we say, well, what is a special character like a Polish A with a little tail on it? Dot, just copy that. We go, oh, this one, so this one is only 2 characters long, and it's got some different ones and zeros here, and different ones and zeros here. And if we do that again, but change that to an A, then all of a sudden we go, oh, this one's actually only 7 bits long. And there seems to be a pattern. If I got 4 ones, then I seem to have 4 bytes. If I have 3 ones, I have 3 bytes. If I have 2 ones, I have 2 bytes. And if I have only 7 bits in here, then it's a single byte character. Don't take any of that as legit, but somewhere deep inside this presentation, take this as legit. So this is somebody who did a presentation about bringing UTF-8 to mRubyC, the C code they wrote to make that happen. And they showed that slide and I was like, whoa, you know what? I think now if you showed me some binary, I'm going to just see the UTF-8 characters come through. This is going to be great. And you're asking like, well, Michael, yeah, whatever. Why is this important? So we did this, we did this. Oh, and then we got like these things. And this is kind of interesting. So I'm going to jump back into just plain old Ruby. So if we in here throw in our, well, our thumbs up. If I hold this, do I get the other thing? I can never, no. Do I have to right click it? Well, I can do that, right? And so it's a skin tone on top of a character. And in fact, that is exactly what it is, because if I do bytes, you see that, well, that's a lot of bytes, whereas, and I can't, in here, let's get just a normal, a default color thing. So as you can see, that's half of those. And then I can dump that and go, oh, okay, there's a UTF-8 character in there. And in here, if I dump that, I go, oh, there's 2 UTF-8 characters. I go, oh, okay, so there's this second UTF-8 character. What the hell is that? If I go, oh, that's your skin tone. So what happens with these is you actually end up applying 2, one applies over the other and actually goes backwards and does weird stuff. And you're still asking like, Michael, come on, you work for a bank. Why do you need to know this? Why does it matter? It matters because one of the things we do, set no number, one of the things we do is check, we send webhooks. So when you make a payment, Zepto sends you a webhook and there's keys and signatures there, and you've got to make sure that you actually got it from Zepto to say this is a legit Zepto webhook. So one of the things you get is this signature up here, and you've got to verify that the data you sent is the right data. But often people now in payment descriptions, they're clever, they're putting they're putting these Unicode characters, and people get problem dealing with these signatures. So for this one, I'm going to just open that to full length. I'm going to, what do I do with this thing? Can I just like shove it? Yeah, maybe. So this is a piece of Ruby code that just runs, that will give us a signature. So I use it that, I clear that, I paste that, and this, when executing, will use, I'll just highlight it there. Oh, that's cool. I'm using the wrong version of Ruby. 3.2.2. Right, so if I run that, I get this massive hash here, which is the same one as up here, because basically using this OpenSSL HMAC hex digest SHA-256, the secret and the signed payload match. And that's a good thing. That means you've got, this is legitimately the data that was sent in the header, that was sent in the actual data is what I expected. It's not a replay attack, etc. But people get that wrong. So then we go, well, come on, if you can't do it in Ruby, oh, right, why do they get this wrong? Well, they get this wrong because if we do the byte length of this string, it's 56 characters, whereas if I do the length of this string, it's 53 characters, because obviously there's extra characters, as we have just seen, in this special character here. And there's going to be even more if you had colors over the top of it. So we send it to them in Ruby and they go, I still don't understand. Why does it not work? So then we go, okay, you can run it in Node like everybody. Surely everybody just runs in Node. So I'll paste that, clear that. So this is the Node equivalent. And sure enough, we get the same D00456, D05 as in here, slightly different. And then at this point, leading into our final kind of presentation, we're going, well, okay, you don't have a terminal. Can I do something better for you? Yes, we can. We should be able to cut and paste this and bring it in our favorite page. Everyone's favorite page is about : blank, of course. And then you can open the sidebar, we can open the console, we can get rid of this, we can cut this and run that, and it fails. Anyone know why this fails? Whilst I have a drink. You need a secure context to run crypto stuff. About blank is some weird Chrome thing, but it basically says you're not secure. So I can't run it there, but I could go to GitHub and just look at one of my favorite repos and open that up and paste that, and boom, it works. So it does actually work. The D00, D05, some weird shit here. I have no idea how some of this stuff even works, but it does work. Of course, I'm the crazy developer who's telling our support people to say, here's some code. Can you get them to go to a secure site? Open up a developer console and paste this in. And clearly that will show them that this is the right signature. So obviously that's why they keep me on the tools and not on the use at the front end. But the guess I actually have in this case is something like this. So if we copy this one and clear that and run this, same code as the Ruby code before, one piece of difference. I'm going to run it to show you that the code is different. So the code's different. And the only thing I changed was I encoded the string as UTF-8 16 lower endian, which is what Windows and C#, I believe, uses by default. I did that in an attempt to see if that's what those developers were actually getting, because they happen to be using C#. So this is a way to display strings. If I, what was our length? Nah, forget about it. All right, let's go into the finale. So this is why some of this stuff was kind of cool. Oh, there's some cool shit here as well. We'll miss that for the moment because we've got time. We've got two more things to do that are more important. So let's go back to the presentation. We can close this, close that. Ruby conferences, we've seen that, so we can close that. Yeah, these slideshows are amazing. Conference notes, who cares? Don't care. Everyone wants to get out of here soon. So special characters, passkeys was the other one, and then we got the Pico Ruby. So anyone here heard of a passkey? Yeah, cool. Right, so the promise of passkeys is if I go to sso.zepto.com.au, Michael Milewski at zepto.com.au. I hope this works. Like, people have told me this works. This will ask me to say, hey, how do you want to secure this? And I go, I don't know the password. I want to use my security key. And I'm going to say, hell's that? I'm going to say that I want to use a phone or tablet. So here's your QR code. Go for your life. You can photograph that. You can do anything you want, because the only device that I know of currently that's got the private key for that is this phone. So the only way to log me in right now is for this phone to say, hey, visit that. I'm going to sign in with passkeys. It's going to say, hey, are you sure? And then I'm going to go continue. And assuming that's good, boom, I'm logged in. No password. I don't know the password. You don't know the password. The only thing currently that I believe knows the password is in here. And the password is basically the fact that this can publicly, encrypt something that the server can go, yeah, it was definitely that one and one only device, which is the passwordless future. So one of the talks, and we're about to see the watch list that I highly recommend seeing, is how to do this. But I tried and I tried again and didn't work. So what did I do? I went to my favorite place, GitHub. I brought up the side console and I said, surely there has to be a way to move this across. How do I do that? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
Press that one.
Which one? Oh, the minimize.
The one.
Yeah, done. So surely there has to be, so if I go into special characters, what is this? Oh, passkey. And there's a README in there, and I just cat the README. And I finally found some code at webauthn.guide. So if I go to an SSL enabled website, and you know why we need to do that now, because I need credentials to be there, like in this case, GitHub, then run this piece of code, which is not the end of the world. It has to know the ID is the website that I'm coming from. So I just grab that. It has to have a few other things like the secret from the server. But I was in a pure attempt to say, can I make this work? And the slides from the presentation did not make it work. This piece of code did, because all of a sudden now it asks me to say, hey, do you want to do this thing with a phone? And I go, yeah, whatever. This is a passkey that doesn't even exist, but I can obviously accept it, which basically means my phone will now auto-generate a private public key, which this code, because it's just code I've pasted in the console, will just say, cool, I got that, I continue. So now I have a GitHub passkey, which is not connected to anything, nothing saved it or anything else. But if you're interested in that kind of stuff, this is a piece of code that will get you started. I did try and do it here, but it doesn't work. So last things. Okay, last piece, two pieces. One, do we have any volunteers for a quiz? Who knows, who wants to be intimidated that they don't know Ruby? Okay, come on. Two people. We need two people to have differing opinions. We've got one contestant. Your name is Tim? Tim? Who's going to verse Tim? Anyone? Is Chef still around? Is he like, I don't know Ruby. Okay, even better. You may actually have a better chance. So one of the things you get to do when you go to conferences is see other people's slides, and sometimes the speaker notes are so good you could just run with them. But this was something where somebody actually went through and said, hey, here's some puzzlers. And the questions here we have is, what is the answer when I call P on 1: plus in brackets 2? Is it 3? Is it no method error? Is it C, 12? Or is it a syntax error? Does anyone from Tim or, sorry, I forgot your name. Julian Doherty. Yes, I know the name now. Tim or Julian, do you have a preference on A, B, C, or D? Getting it wrong is probably the right thing. D. You vote D, a syntax error? I'm picking B. You're picking B, no method error? Okay, locked in. Anyone else? Okay, the answer is A. And why is the answer A? The answer is because colon is a namespace resolution operator, but it also allows you to get instance methods. In this case, 1 is an integer, and this basically gets the instance method of the method plus and applies 2 on top of it. Let's go. But don't listen to that. So what about this one? So this is dot, for those who don't know, is a range operator. So usually when I do 1.5, I'm getting a range. I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've been bitten by this numerous times. And the options are, it's a range error, it's a no method error, it's a nil, or it is what you want, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, an array of the range. Tim, do we have an answer? You can ask for help. Call a friend. Call a friend.
And are they different? I don't remember. Sorry, I'm gonna get the
D, we have a D. We've got like this. Rails clearly has sorted this one out. Julian?
Right, I'm reckoning the precedence is going to screw it up. So it's going to call 5.2a. It's going to go to 1 to 5.2a with 5.2a being the end thing. And I reckon 2a is not more than 5, so it's going to be
B. We have a B. Chef, I would have had you up here. B is correct. No method error. So basically, it's the classic precedence stuff, which interestingly enough, I'm sitting with my son right now. He's doing BidMass. I used to do BOMDAS. I don't know how they managed to change the names, but we still get the same answers. But yes, basically, imagine those brackets there. That's what would have happened. All right, we'll do two more. Let's go. So I have $hello equals the world. And then somebody does P hello $, no curly braces like you'd typically imagine. What happens? We have a syntax error. We have the string hello, comma world. We have hello $, hello, or we have a name error. Tim.
Did you make it immutable?
All right, I'm gonna call the buzzer. The answer is it is actually hello world. I don't actually know why. When interpolating instance at class at or global variables $, you can skip the curly braces and only use that. There you go. Curly braces optional. Start using that in your code base. Yeah. Don't do that. No, don't do that. All right. We're not going to do any more of these, but there's a whole heap of them. They're fun. What I do encourage you is come and check out my repo. You'll get the link to this. Although I think on this link I'm missing. But then run this as an activity in your workplace. It's a great opportunity to kind of get part of that. So before we program the Pico Ruby keyboard, this is so you guys can sit down. Thank you very much, Tim and Julian. Woo! This is my must-watch list. These are the best talks, or the talks I probably would recommend either watching again or watching if you haven't seen them. Nate did this talk here in Ruby Melbourne, but he also did it in Bangkok. What was amazing when he did it in Bangkok is his timing with the slides was so perfect that you literally thought somebody was changing the slides behind him, whereas in Melbourne, his slide is off. So I recommend you watch both of them and see where he stuffs up. So Nate talks very well on that. Another one in RubyConf Thailand is Rhoda. So this is Jeremy Evans, who wrote Rhoda and has written a lot of libraries. It's certainly a library that I have high on my list of things to try, Rhoda, and this is a very accessible kind of talk as to why it's good, how to use it, all the alternatives to Rails for all the things. Well, this is an interesting talk, especially for any juniors or people wanting to learn. This is the approach of learning Rails by dissecting it. So RTDP, as he likes to be called, because Rattendeep is harder to pronounce. Also did a workshop at Rails Conf, which was really good. I've mentioned this to a lot of people. So if you are bamboozled by what Rails does, one idea that he recommends is just break it down. Just play with Rake. Understand what Rake does, how you can use it, how can you use it to create a directory, how you can use it to automate something. Play with Rack. Just create a basic Rack server. Understand how that works, and so on and so forth. So a lot of these things you can try by themselves, and then you'll have a better, deeper understanding as you learn things. So it's especially a good learning idea, I feel, to break these things down. Create a completely separate project that uses active model without Rails. Just understand that you can use it and you'll have a better understanding. So this is highly recommended. I like this approach to learning stuff. In Melbourne, RubyConf Melbourne, we had Samuel talk about async and some cool stuff with his Falcon server. I was hoping these would have the names of the person. Well, the name skips me right now. But this was a talk about salary negotiation. It was very good, especially for shy people or people who are not kind of bullish about getting a good thing. This one I have no idea. So we're going to have to, how the hell open in, sorry. Oh, Hanami. So if you haven't played with Hanami, Hanami is another framework option. Go and have a look. This was the Cipher Stash talk about order revealing encryption. Certainly a really good introduction to what and why, well, less why, but how encryption happens. In programmable, as I said, I spent most of my time hacking one of the competitions, but this is the State of Passwordless Auth by Phil Nash. Always a great speaker, well worth the watch. The video is up. React Miami, there's a number of good talks. This one stood out. Una Kravitz, I think she's she's an engineer at Google Chrome. So she talks about all of these new cool features that are coming to Google Chrome, including things like being able to style drop-down lists and other things like that, as well as we have now, what is it when you have the whole screen responsive? It's like the whole screen's responsive. Now you get divs can be responsive as well. So you can container queries, right? These ones are yet to come out from RailsConf Atlanta. I haven't been to all of these, but I heard good things of the ones I haven't been to. There's one about doing big rewrites, don't. Another one by Nate about how you can make your app faster by showing you what makes it slower. Adam Cuppy is always a great presenter, talks about mentorship. As I said, I haven't seen it. Vladimir Dementiev is one of the evil Martians. He a lot of positive things about this talk, and he's also got a book coming out. This was actually one of my favorites, which is Off to the Races about race conditions in Ruby. It's got the slides actually for this are very good because they actually kind of cover off most of the things he demonstrates there. Aaron Patterson, Tender Love, is always a great speaker. He did a great keynote. And one other kind of call out here is there was one about, again, more from junior to mid devs about processing webhooks, a great demonstration of how to process them well at scale. Quite simple, but there's already a tutorial that you can go and watch and a code base. RubyConf, again, some of the talks that were highlights. So you can follow the channel, but at the moment, none of these talks are out yet. How to build a mini Ruby debugger in under 300 lines of code. Multiverse Ruby, which was the idea of being able to create modules in their own non-namespace to then be able to move them somewhere else and be able to multi-load things at the same time. It's in Japanese. But the guy is an English speaker, so I don't know what happens with those videos, but it's going to be pretty good. Jeremy Evans talking about second oldest bug. And Samuel Williams again talking about more asynchronous stuff. But in this case, what's really cool about this talk when it comes out, and you can see his slides, I think you can see them from here, is that it goes through the history of how HTTP standard changed and why we need different asynchronous stuff and what HTTP3 brings, et cetera, and how certain libraries deal with that. So I'm just going to open a new window to see if following that link, no, you do not get the slides in there. I may update this thing with slides. So that's the QR code if you want to, this is, oh, there we go. There's a QR code if you want to grab the repo. It's Failure Driven Conferences 2023. And the last thing is we're going to do some IoT programming. So everyone who went to RubyConf got this little cool keyboard. They had to assemble themselves and get parts of it. It is got keys. It has a Seed RP2040, which is a Raspberry Pi style chip that allows you to burn an operating system on it. Somebody has burnt an operating system on this that runs Ruby, which means you can configure your keyboard with Ruby. So if we open one of the locations I've got here is a disk, which is the PRK firmware, and inside I have a key map. I'm not gonna edit it from there. I'm kind of a VI kind of guy. I'm going to edit from here, volumes, PRK, key map. So in here, looks like pretty standard kind of Ruby. I require some things. This is Pico Ruby, not mRuby. But the core thing is in here, I have a number of macros, and those macros define what various keys do. So I have one that says hello kickboxer. So let's have a look. If I go in here, clear the screen, and I press the bottom left, I get echo hello kickboxer and a new line, and that works, right? So let's change that, and let's say hello Ruby meetup. So May 2023. Now, anyone here has ever done any hardware development before, right? So this is where we compile this and then run it through a serial RS-232 interface, which runs at 18 volts, that burns some stuff into EEPROMs, which we may have to have a UV light to clear. No, at this point in time, I right quit that. This has now restarted. And let's have a look. If I press this bottom key again, May 2023, that's really cool. And the cool thing about that was I did the old kind of stuff, or half of, to do my talk at RubyConf. So when I saw this, I was like, holy moly, this is so much better. Thank you for your time and patience. I hope you've enjoyed it.